Thank you. Thank you. Ready to commence our special council meeting for Wednesday the 16th of November. Thank you for all coming along today. We have quite a full gallery, so it's great to see, and welcome to also our viewers through live streaming. Just like to remind people just to turn their mobile phones on silent or off, and to also refrain from talking in the gallery while council is in processions. And we have a big decision to make tonight, so I ask you all to please respect the council. Just like to also acknowledge an ex-Shire President and Freeman of the Shire, Bruce Heerman, and ex-Shire President Brian Peace. Welcome. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Wadandi people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past, present and emerging. This meeting is being live streamed and digitally recorded in accordance with council policy. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. Whilst every endeavour has been made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting, loud comments or noises from the gallery may be picked up on the recording. Moving forward, 2.1, apologies. We have Councillor Glover, I believe, is an apology for this meeting.
That's correct, Madam President, and Mr Kim Dolzadelli, the Director of Corporate and Community Services, is also an apology for this meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to 2.2, approve leave of absence. We don't have any. 2.3, applications for a leave of absence. We don't have any through from the councillors, no. Announcements, item 3, announcements from the presiding member. I don't have any for this actual special council meeting, however I will have some for next week. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest from our councillors this evening?
Madam President, I've received one from Councillor Shane Atherton in relation to agenda item 7.1.1, the confidential item in regards to the VC Mitchell Park project procurement. Councillor Atherton has declared an impartiality interest as he is a life member of the Donnybrook Football Club.
Thank you very much. Are there any other declarations of interest for tonight's meeting? No? Moving on to item 5, which is our public question time. Now for tonight, the questions that, before I ask anyone from the public gallery to come up and ask a question, it must be related to this special council meeting. So the questions must be related to tonight's agenda item. Now, I'll also just remind you that you have, if you need to ask a question, we have 15 minutes for public question time. I may extend it. You can have 2 questions at a time, and if there's any others people to ask questions, then you can sit down and then you can come back up if there's any other questions after that. So, in view of that, is there anyone that would like to ask a question this evening? Yes, Councillor. Yeah, I'll. Okay. I think. Yep, Councillor. Yep, Mr. McGuinness. If you could just like to state your name and your address, Mr. McGuinness.
Simon McGuinness.
That's an entrance.
I'm here as a spokesperson for the Donnybrook and Baling Up Ratepayers and Residents Association, and will it be recorded in the minutes as such?
No, we've had this conversation before. It'll be recorded as your name and you're quoting your name and your address.
But I am spokesman at the moment for the Donnybrook Baling Up Ratepayers Association, and I've had a look at the rules, and apparently You are the only one who can make the decision to deny the Ratepayers Association a voice. And I was just wondering if you'd reconsider your decision.
Okay, as from previous decision? I
Well,
will
you are
cont-
the only person, it's only the presiding member that can make this decision to deny the
Yes.
Ratepayers Association a voice.
Okay, that is correct. And I going to go consistent from my previous decision?
Okay?
Okay. So if you're not comfortable with those questions, you can pass those questions on to someone else, or you can ask them on your behalf.
I'll ask them on my behalf. But the other side of it is the councillors now can actually do what's it called? A procedural motion and disagree with your decision. Will any of the councillors do a procedural motion to disagree with your decision?
Well,
Dissent against the President's decision and give the ratepayers the right to question and seek clarification.
I'll just verify the meeting procedures on that. Just give me a moment.
It's actually wrong on this. It's the CEO's obligation to record the minutes and present those to the council. So it's got nothing to do with you making a decision or not.
Apparently that is incorrect. It is the CEO's role to prepare the minutes and present them to
the
council.
minutes though, they do have the right to call out a procedural motion and disagree with the President's decision according to the, I can't remember it now, the rules. Anyway, we're moving right along. Just to say that you have denied now the spokesperson for the Ratepayers Association the right to question and to seek clarification on behalf of their members. That's correct, isn't it?
That's correct.
Leanne, is there about 4 questions?
Okay.
That's several questions. So
Well, I'm just trying to clarify things, that's all. My questions are, my actual question
one
is,
question left.
how many times in the last 4 years has the Donnybrook Shire applied for the co-contribution loan for the BC Mitchell Park project?
So how many times is the co-contribution?
How many times in the last 4 years has the Donnybrook Shire applied for the co-contribution loan for the VC Mitchell Park project?
Would you like to answer that?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr McGuinness. The Shire has applied once previously.
Okay. Why was that application rejected? That's my second question.
That,
I'm happy to deal with it.
yeah, okay. The application wasn't rejected, but I'll pass you over to the CEO.
That's the answer.
Well,
The application was not rejected. It lapsed.
thank you. Without the loan, you don't get the $6 million.
That's-
According to Councillor Atherton. That's right.
Is there anyone else that has questions? Yes, please come up and state your name and your address. Thanks.
My name's John Human from 224 Teller Creek Road. I'm not sure, I might have missed it, I got here a little bit late, but I've read somewhere about intergenerational loan. Would you be able to explain that to us, please?
Yeah, sure. Intergenerational loan is a way of sort of shifting the cost to future ratepayers. So with this project, we have 3 funding sources. We have grant funding, we have loan funding, and we have money in the bank account, basically, which is a reserve, which is in term deposit, for reserves. Now, the reserve money is money that's been saved from past ratepayers. So ratepayers have entered into it, and the Shire's actually put that money aside for renewal works. Loan money is actually a way of people, ratepayers in the future paying for that facility. So it's a way of spreading the cost. So instead of just past ratepayers paying for it, it's future ratepayers will be paying for it. And because you probably have the most use of these facilities, and they're going to be using it in the future. So does that, yep, so that's sort of a way of explaining it.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Yes, please come up. State your name and address, please.
Shane Sercombe, Kingspring Road, Thompson Brook. Thank you, Council and admin staff and members of the public. So I'd like to ask these questions in order to achieve the best possible outcome for the project and therefore the community. Madam President, could you please give a brief description of the nature of this item and why a special meeting was called?
The special meeting was called for this particular item because we thought it was substantial enough to have a meeting for itself. So instead of mixing it in with ordinary council meeting, we thought it was significant to have just a meeting specially.
Fair enough. And are you able to give a brief description of the item? I know it's confidential, but are you able to elaborate on anything that doesn't divulge confidentiality? Like, is this us committing to a $9 million project, or
It's the tender, it's the contract. So did you want to elaborate on that? It's just all to do with the contract. So I'll get the
Thank you,
CEO
Madam
to.
President. Shire staff have, along with some contractors assisting, have been developing contract documentation over the last few weeks and months with the Shire's preferred construction partner, which is Perkins Builders. That's not confidential. Contract documentation is now at a position that it can be presented to the council for formal consideration for execution. So council's being asked to consider entering into a contract, and a lot of other subsidiary or ancillary decisions that are related to that.
Okay, so there's some other people that might have some questions. That was your two questions.
I was just getting clarity. The first question was, can you give a brief description of the nature of the item and why a special meeting was called? That was one question.
I did give you that answer.
Yeah, so do I get a second question?
That was two questions. There was one question you asked me, which I've already answered, and the second one was answered. So there was two questions there.
Misunderstood me. It was my first question was, could you please give a brief description of the nature of the item and why a special meeting was called? That was my first question.
There's two parts to the one question.
Okay.
So, yeah. Mr. Peace, can you please come up and...
Mr. Sercombe can still come back up.
Yeah, Mr. Sercombe, we'll just wait and then you can come back up and ask more questions. That's all right. Please state your name and address, please.
Yes, for those who don't know me, I'm Brian Peace from 145 Marshall Road in Argyle. I have two questions. The first one being, I understand this project, if it gets the sign-off by the council tonight, is probably still two years away from being delivered. Could you advise me since this project, someone said 4 years ago it started, the State Treasury lending rate, I understand that's moved up significantly in recent times. Can you tell me what the loan for $3 million, what the interest rate it will be compared to what it might have been 4 years ago?
I think the interest, what I remember is the interest rate has actually, in the long-term financial plan, we've actually budgeted for 5%. Yeah, it's just over 5%, I think, that we've actually budgeted in the long-term financial plan. But what it was previously, sorry, I don't know that.
I understood it was around about the 2% at that stage. So you've clarified for me what it's gone up in terms of the procrastination of this project.
Another question, Mr. Peace?
And the second question is, I understand, I might have missed this, but I understand the management order for this new facility, community facility, is being granted to the Donnybrook Football Club. could you advise me, is it going to run, this facility going to be open to the community and the public 12 months of the year, or like the current football club is a seasonal affair except for special events?
The actual project has always been a multi-purpose facility.
Correct.
So that is open to the public throughout the year.
Sorry, I might not have made myself clear. The football club currently closes down out of season. Is part of the arrangements with the football club that this community facility must be available for the public
Yep.
and the community 12 months of the year. That's my question.
Okay. CEO's also said he could just add to that.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, ex-President Peace. Earlier this year, the council considered the results of a report by a consultant by the name of Anna Dixon, who undertook various governance and management model investigations and recommended to the council that a blended management model be the most appropriate model. I won't go into the details of precisely how that works, but as the name might suggest, it's a blend of parties, which would be the Shire and a principal or key tenant. In this instance, obviously, it would be the Donnybrook Football Club. The intent of this project from its inception has been about having a facility which is open to all parts of the community for different types of events at different times of the year. So we would hope over the next months and year or more, as physical construction actually starts, we can work through with the Donnybrook Football Club to look at a governance and management model which will see the place activated 364 days of the year. We'll give Christmas a break.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peace. Now, any other questions before I call back Mr. Sercombe? Mr. Sercombe, you got more questions? Is there anyone else that's got questions? No? Okay, yes, please come down.
Has the CEO been able to secure any of the external funding as yet? And if not, why hasn't a financial assistance agreement with the state government been entered into?
Would you like to answer this? It's all to do with the loan. The loan, we haven't put another application in for the loan as yet, but this is all part of what the discussion is for this evening. And the FAA, which is the Financial Assistance Agreement, which is what you're referring to as well, which is something also that will be discussed tonight, this evening as well.
So no external funding has been secured as yet?
Through external funding, as in the loan, you mean?
The loan or
And
the
the grant? Not at this stage. We have actually, a part of the grant has already been...
Yeah.
You realise that?
Yeah.
So it's just the remainder.
And then you're elaborating that the financial assistance agreement can't be entered into prior to being granted the loan, is that correct?
I'm not sure of that, yeah. Do you want to answer that? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam President. There's a sequencing challenge with the release of the funds from the state government, the residual of $5.75 million. To secure that, we need to first have the loan approved. In order to have the loan approved, we need to have contract documentation prepared. And so the decision tonight that council, behind closed doors, will be asked to consider will essentially set up a concertina effect. The contract documentation is considered. That'll unlock the ability to apply for the loan. Having the loan approved unlocks the ability to execute the financial assistance agreement. We've been previously approved for the loan, so we don't foresee any challenges there in relation to the financial assistance agreement. We don't foresee any challenges there in terms of executing that document either. It's just a process that needs to be followed.
Yeah, okay. So there's going to be no contractual commitment until those external funding sources are secured.
It's probably getting a little close to the bone there in terms of the confidentiality of documents that council's going to be considering tonight. Without breaching confidentiality, I can say that is a consideration for the council. They will be considering that sequencing challenge.
Could the President please give a breakdown of outcomes achieved with the 300 to 350,000 spent to date on pre-works, and whether Perkins have unfettered access to this information?
I don't have that information on hand here at the moment. I have to take that on notice. That's the breakdown.
Are you happy for me to?
can
Yeah,
do,
thank
yeah.
you, Madam President. To answer the second part of that question, no, Perkins or anybody else does not have unfettered access to documentation. It's at the Shire's control and authorisation.
Sorry, just a better way to term that instead of fettered is the 300 odd thousand spent to date, is all that information available to Perkins if required, like all those design works, or will there be need for duplication? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Sercombe. Yeah, the information is certainly available to Perkins, absolutely. I mean, it's not that the work's been done and then it's put aside and not of any purpose. It's absolutely critical. Coming back to the first question, a couple of questions ago, in terms of what's been achieved with the funding on the project to date, I suppose it's all self-evident in tonight's meeting of council. It's considering the contract documentation. So there's a huge volume of work that's been coordinated and managed through the Shire and its consultants to get us to the stage of putting a contract in front of the council for consideration.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, before you go on, is there any other questions? Yes, please. You can just take a seat, Mr. Sercombe. Thank you. Just state your name and your address, thanks.
Justin Knox, 319 Marshall Road in Argyle. I just got a question in the way of the funding. Is there a time period that we have to have the application done? Obviously, they've given us the funding, but is there a time period we have to use that funding in before it gets taken away?
Good question. I'll just check with the CEO. Do you?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Knox, for the question. So just a point of clarification in your question, the Shire doesn't have access to the funding as yet. Yeah. We pending some council decisions, are very likely to, but to the main point of your question, the funding from the state government, the $6 million came out of the COVID recovery plan, which was a state government plan, economic development plan to drive economic stimulus, particularly in the building and construction industry post-COVID. Some might say that's worked too well. There's no hard and fast timeline as to when the state government might, I suppose, withdraw or retract its offer of the funding. However, the Shire as an organisation is not keen to push that rather flexible boundary too far.
Do you have another question? You're right? No. That's all right. Okay. Thank you. There's no other questions before I... Yep, okay, Mr. Sercombe.
How will council determine if this is a value for money contract, given so far it's been a non-competitive pricing process?
That's something that the council's going to be considering tonight.
Yeah, what information is available to them to help them determine whether it's value for money, given the contracted works haven't gone through a competitive tender process?
They
We have gone through a competitive tender
How
tender
many
process.
tenders were received?
Zero.
There was no tenders
Thanks.
received.
Will the resolution of today's meeting contain a brief description of the contract and the value of the contract for the public? Just so after today's meeting, there's the community can get a sense of what the outcome was, rather than a resolution to say accept or not accept Perkins' contract. So a brief outline of the contract and price.
So you're looking at a breakdown of the prices in the contract. So you're looking at contract information. Is that correct? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so in the resolution that will be made public after the meeting, will that resolution likely have, I know it's up to council, but does the recommendation so far have a description of the contract and the price of the contract?
Yeah, you could answer.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. The recommendation is just that at the moment. The council resolution, as you've already flagged,
Yeah.
will be the ultimate. Well, it'll be the ultimate resolution. My recommendation to the council would not be to release those contract details just yet.
Would the council consider giving the community an update of the VC Mitchell project following today's meeting?
There will be a motion, of the resolution will be released after tonight.
Yep, and would council consider giving the community an update on the project after tonight?
Well, I guess, yeah, I can't
Yeah.
see why not.
Cool. Do council have the final vote on whether the meeting is closed to the public tonight?
Under the Act, when you're dealing with contracts, it is closed.
Do council have the final vote on whether the meeting will be closed to the public?
Yeah, we do put it in, there is a vote to go in behind closed doors, and yes, there is a vote, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have many more questions? Is there anyone else that,
I think I'm done now.
You're done?
Anyway,
Okay.
thanks everyone for your time, and
Okay.
thanks for the club for their turnout.
thank you for your questions. Yes, Mr McGuinness, you can come down and...
I've just got one question. The EOIs, the expressions of interest, both Perkins and Smith's Constructions had expressions of interest. Wouldn't it be prudent to have both companies vying for this project rather than just choosing one and going with one, just to get value for money? Because both have shown an interest in this project.
The expression of interest was like working out their capabilities and capacity to actually deliver what we want, and it was assessed that there was only one that was suitable, that had the capacity and the capability of delivering what we wanted.
Who made that decision?
The executive staff and the project management team,
The council did.
and the council as well. Yes. Still going back to the... Okay. Can you address the information? Oh, another question? Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Has a MOU or other been entered into with the football club as yet?
Has an MOU been entered into the football club? No. No, not that I'm aware of, no.
MOU,
MOU. Hasn't an MOU been entered in with the football club
Yes.
at the moment? No.
No. So, what before the contract is committed to, what arrangements are in place with the football club to date?
That's something that the council are going to be discussing in our
Okay, cool. Thanks.
agenda tonight. Are there any other questions? Oh, one more. Okay, we'll just, yep. Last one. Last one. Lucky last.
This has been going on for 4 years now. If everything goes to plan, how long will it be before we have a new football club?
Good question. I'll pass that over to the CEO. Might be able to answer that.
From a point of order,
Yes.
it's not a football club, it's actually a community building.
Yes, yes. Please reframe that. It is. Rephrase it. It is a multi-purpose building as well.
Oh,
Thank
all
you.
right then. We've been going on for 4 years. How much is the multi-purpose building for the? How long will it be before we actually have a new building there where the football club currently exists?
Okay. Do you have an expected completion date?
Thank you, Madam President. No, I don't have an expected completion date at the moment. Perkins will undertake detailed scheduling, do all the Gantt charts and work out critical path analyses, etc. It's a little bit of a fluid conversation at the moment with a very variable labour market and supply challenges in terms of materials.
So do we know 1 year, 2 years?
I can't answer the question.
know.
No. I
More
would
than 6
expect, yeah, more than 6 months. It would take more than 6 months to build a house at the moment,
Yeah.
let alone a multi-purpose community and sporting building.
Okay.
I would expect somewhere around 18 months,
18 months.
but I don't.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your questions. That's the conclusion of our public question time. Moving on to 6.3, item 7 actually. So this sort of concludes our meeting that's open to the public. So now we actually vote to go behind closed doors, and we.
Not just yet.
Not just yet?
You've got to vote to go behind closed
Oh,
doors.
okay, we can vote to go behind closed doors? Yep, that's correct, that's true. Okay, so who's in favour, or put it to the vote, in favour of? Yeah, mover, thank you, sorry. Chris Smith, Councillor Smith and Councillor Newman, mover and seconder. Don't need to speak on it, do they? Going to put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand to go behind closed doors. Against? Thank you. It's carried. 7-1 carried. All right, so I'd just like to thank everyone for attending this evening, or late this afternoon. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. got to read the whole resolution, don't I?
There'll be people watching at home. Yeah. Oh, nobody's watching. Well, it needs to be recorded.
Yep. Can you give me the heads up when it goes?
The third screen to supervise it. Okay, we're back on.
Okay, thank you and welcome to all our viewers that have rejoined us. I'm going through to 7.2, which is a public reading of the resolutions that may be made public. This motion that is made public is 7.1.1, which is the resolution to do with the VC Mitchell Park project procurement. The motion reads as such, that Council, 1, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to, 1.1, execute the attached confidential contract documentation, including minor contract modifications required to reflect Building and Construction Securities of Payment Act 2021. 1.2, apply to WA Treasury Corporation for a loan of up to 2.9 million for the VC Mitchell Park project. And 1.3, execute the project financial assistance agreement with the state government for $5,750,000. 2, request the Chief Executive Officer to secure project funding from the Donnybrook Football Club to the value of $250,000. 3, request the Chief Executive Officer to secure project funding from the WA Football Commission, Australian Football League, to the value of $120,000. 4, request the Chief Executive Officer to secure the ongoing project management services of SHAPE Management for the duration of the design and construction phases, acting in the capacity of superintendent under the contract. 5, request the Chief Executive Officer to provide a project update to relevant stakeholders, including sporting clubs. 6, reaffirm its support for the blended management model as recommended in the Anna Dixon Consulting Report. 7, thank Shire staff and engaged contractors, consultants for their diligent, robust and professional approach to the project. And lastly, 8, release this resolution in the meeting minutes.
Just need to call the meeting closed.
And now that brings me to a closure of the meeting for the special council meeting dated the 16th of November. And just a reminder that we have an ordinary council meeting next week, commencing at 5 p.m. at the Bailing Up Hall. Thank you and good night.